I dropped the sponge in the sink. The phone was ringing. "Hi, Mom." Darren's voice. Too cheerful, too prepared. I dried my hands. "Hey, sweetheart. Everything okay?" A pause. Then he cleared his throat. "So, funny thing. About the wedding." I stopped. Leaned on the counter. He continued, rushed. "There was a mix-up. With the flights, the hotel. We thought, well, Elena thought you'd be flying in with Aunt May, but turns out she booked solo, and now it's all full." My voice cracked before I could hide it. "Full? Yeah. Totally booked. Every room. We didn't realize Miami was, so busy in spring." I said nothing. "So we figured it's just easier if you maybe sit this one out. We'll FaceTime you. It'll be like you're there." The line went still. "Mom." I breathed in through my nose. "Steady." "Who's already there?" He hesitated. "Well, Elena's parents, obviously. Her sister. Some cousins flew in yesterday. Uncle Randy's here. Oh, and Sophie from my team. But not me. It's just logistics, Mom. Flights are insane right now. I would have booked my own. We didn't want to burden you." I almost laughed. "I see. I mean, we still love you being part of it. It's just, maybe not physically this time." "Right." I glanced at the corner of the living room, the wrapped gift, the envelope, the plane ticket I'd been planning to buy myself, just waiting for confirmation. A single email would have been enough. His voice came softer. "You okay?" I looked at the calendar. March 9th. The wedding was in 4 days. "I'm fine," I said. "We'll send pictures, and I'll call you right after the vows. Promise." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Thanks for understanding, Mom. Really." I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. I stood there for a long time, hands still damp, phone warm in my palm. The gift sat there. Silver ribbon. I had picked it weeks ago. Elena had mentioned loving olive wood. I had found a set serving spoons handmade, carved with care. That night, I didn't eat dinner. I opened the laptop. The live stream link had already been sent to the family group chat, just not directly to me. I clicked yes to RSVP anyway. Then I closed the screen, turned off the lights, and sat in the dark. In the morning, I washed my hair, pressed my blouse. I was going to attend the wedding, just not in the way they expected. I zipped the dress, pulled my hair back, clipped the earrings he gave me for my 59th birthday. Elegant, not flashy, he'd said. That was 4 years ago, before Elena, before the distance. I dabbed concealer under my eyes, added blush, lip color, mascara, straightened my back, turned on the old laptop and propped it on the table. The living room was too quiet. I set a single plate of crackers next to it. No champagne, just coffee black. The live stream opened with music, a view of the ocean. Then the camera panned to the chairs, white ribboned, organized in neat little rows. Her parents sat front and center. Her sister took selfies. Her aunt waved at the camera. No sign of my name, no reserved seat. Darren stepped into frame. He looked happy, tall, clean-shaven, a tailored blue suit, not navy, something brighter. His smile was practiced but real. Elena walked down the aisle minutes later in white silk. The crowd stood. The officiant welcomed everyone. "We thank the bride's family for making this possible." I leaned in, waiting. He continued. "To the incredible support system Elena has had all her life." I listened harder. "To the love, the guidance, the sacrifices from her family, and now our dear groom Darren, who enters this with humility, gratitude, and love. No mention of me, not once." I watched them exchange vows. I watched him say I do. I watched them laugh when Elena's veil slipped. I watched her mother dab her eyes with a cloth I had embroidered for her last Christmas. She had sent no thank you card. The camera followed them down the aisle. Applause, music. They vanished behind a white curtain. The screen cut to the reception. Toasts began. Her father went first. To my daughter, to Darren, and to all of you who helped raise her. Still no name. Still no glance at the camera. I sat straighter in my chair. Wiped the edge of my mug. Blotted the lipstick stain from the rim. It was the first time I realized how quiet a celebration could sound when you're on the other side of the screen. The camera shook for a moment. Then it caught Darren hugging her uncle. Then Elena whispering into someone's ear. Then champagne being poured into towers. A server stepped into frame with a tray of white desserts. Petite fours they looked like. Darren picked one up and smiled at Elena's mother. He kissed her cheek. She kissed his back. He didn't look for me. I closed the laptop just as the music started again. Folded the napkin. Took off the earrings. Slipped off the heels. Walked into the kitchen and placed the silver-wrapped gift in the bottom cabinet. Then I reached up for the envelope I had left on top of the fridge, the one that had been ready to hold a check. I pulled it open. Empty now. I left it that way. Then I walked to the hall, turned on the porch light, and stood in the doorway with my arms folded. Across the street, the neighbors were laughing. Hosting something. I watched. Not because I wanted to join them, but because I didn't want to sit down. Not yet. The doorbell rang. I opened the door. It was Carol from next door. She held out a container wrapped in foil. Made too much, she said. You okay? I nodded. Took the food. Thanks. She looked at me a second too long, like she knew something. I didn't invite her in. I warmed the food. Ate, standing at the counter. Watched the light flicker above the sink. The silence settled back in. That night I reopened the laptop. The live stream recording had been uploaded. I clicked through it, slowly skipping the ceremony this time. I landed on the reception. One of the toasts. Elena stood with a glass in one hand, her other hand resting lightly on Darren's chest. She smiled like she owned the world. And I just want to thank my family, she said. Voice sweet, firm, polished. Especially my mom for these. She touched the pearls around her neck. She gave them to me last year, told me to save them for something special. Everyone clapped. Darren raised his glass, grinning. He didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't correct her. I stared at the screen. Those pearls had been mine. Given to me by my own mother on my wedding day. Worn for every anniversary. Packed carefully in a blue felt pouch. I had handed them to Darren last spring. If you want to give her something meaningful, I'd said these are yours to offer. He'd nodded, kissed my forehead, promised. She'll know. She didn't. Or worse, she did and chose to say it anyway. I shut the laptop, went to the bedroom, opened the top drawer of my dresser. Inside was the empty pouch. I pressed it. Flat ran my finger along the seam. She hadn't even had it cleaned. I could see the tiny scratch on the clasp proof it was mine. It didn't feel like heartbreak. It felt like theft. Not of the object, but of the story. Of the effort. Of memory. He had let her take that too. The next morning I didn't water the garden. I didn't go to the store. I sat at the dining table and opened my old files. The ones with my name. The ones with his father's. And I pulled out the yellow folder. I opened the envelope. It was from the bank. Plain white. No warning label. I almost threw it away. Then I saw the bolded line near the bottom, transfer confirmation, $4,200 joint account ending in arrow 832. I read it twice. The date was 2 days after the wedding. I hadn't touched that account in months. The note beneath it, initiated by authorized party Darren Hayward. I froze. There'd been no call, no heads up, no emergency. I reached for my checkbook, flipped it open. The joint account had been one I opened years ago when Darren started grad school. Use it for tuition emergencies, I'd said. I'd forgotten it even existed until now. There wasn't much in it. Less than 10 grand. Still mine. Still not his to take. I picked up the phone. Dialed. No answer. I texted instead. Darren. I got a notice from the bank. Was there an issue? He replied an hour later. Oh yeah, I used that account for some honeymoon stuff. Figured it was fine since it was just sitting there. We'll pay you back, just sitting there, like it was a bowl of candy. I didn't reply. I printed the slip, filed it in the yellow folder, added a sticky note with the date and his message. That evening, I pulled out a plain notebook, drew a line down the middle of the page. On the left, what they took. On the right, what I still have. I started listing. Pearls, flight, a place at the table, a name in the vows, my account. Then I wrote on the other side, the deed, the trust, the will, the lawyer. I stared at those last 4 lines for a long time. The balance was shifting. I closed the notebook, tucked it under the yellow folder. Then I heard the mail slot click again. Another envelope slid through. This one was from the HOA. I snapped on the light. Walked to the hallway closet, unlocked the bottom drawer and pulled it open. The yellow folder was still there. I'd written Plan B on it years ago with a red marker, half joking. Back when Robert was alive, back when things were still simple, I carried it to the table, sat down, opened it. First page, property deed, full ownership, my name only. Robert had made sure of that. No confusion later, he'd said. This house is yours. Next power of attorney updated and notarized. Darren's name wasn't on it. Then Howard Greer Esky, his business card still crisp. I hadn't spoken to him in almost 2 years, but he had always been clear if anything feels off call. I don't care if it's Sunday. I pulled out the contact sheet behind it, account numbers, policies, passwords. Robert's handwriting mixed with mine. I ran a hand over it. So much of our life was in this folder. The parts that mattered. The parts they'd forgotten I still held. I reached for the phone. Dialed the number on Howard's card. He picked up on the second ring. Howard Greer. Hi, Howard. It's Noreen Hayward. A pause. Noreen. It's been a while. I think it's time we reviewed a few things. He didn't ask why. Come by Thursday at 10. Bring the folder. I will. I hung up, stared at the folder. They thought I was just watching, just enduring. But I had always been filing, remembering, saving. Quiet didn't mean powerless. I slipped the folder into my bag. Then I walked to the bedroom and changed the lockbox code. I stepped into Howard's office. No receptionist, just the smell of old paper and stronger coffee. He waved me in, closed the door. Sit down, Noreen. I opened the yellow folder, laid everything on the table one by one. He didn't rush. He skimmed the deed, nodded, still clean. No lien, no shared title. You're safe here. Then the power of attorney. He read it, smiled slightly. You updated this in 2021. Smart. I had a feeling I said. Finally, he pulled out a separate file from his own drawer. Gray cover, labeled R.H. Robert Hayward. I wasn't sure if now was the time, he said, but since you've come, he handed it to me. I opened it. Inside a second will, dated 3 months before Robert passed. Signed, notarized. Howard tapped a paragraph with his pen. Clause 17. Any direct heir who publicly humiliates, shames, or disrespects Noreen Hayward verbally, financially, or through omission shall forfeit all inheritance entitlements effective immediately upon documentation or witness of such act. I blinked. Read it again. He didn't tell me. Howard shrugged. Robert didn't like drama, but he trusted you. He wanted a backstop just in case. I stared at the paper. Darren's words came back. Just stay home, Mom. The live stream, the pearls, the transfer. Not one of them hidden. I have the documentation, I said. Everything. Howard leaned back. Then you're holding the trigger. Quiet, but loaded. I folded the will, slid it into my folder. What do you want to do next? He asked. I looked out the window. Calm day. Clear sky. We wait, I said. They'll dig the hole themselves. And I'll be holding the shovel. I answered on the second ring. This is Noreen. A man's voice polite, but clipped. Hi, Mrs. Hayward. This is Jeremy Peck from Gulfside Realty, just confirming the showing at the Lakewood property next Tuesday. I straightened in my chair. What showing? He hesitated. You're not selling the Lakewood cabin. I gripped the phone tighter. That's my name on the deed. More silence. Ma'am, I was told it was part of a family inheritance. Your daughter-in-law, Elena Hayward, contacted us. She signed the listing paperwork, said she had authority. My stomach burned cold. She doesn't. He cleared his throat. Then there's been a serious miscommunication. I'll put an immediate hold on the listing. I thanked him. Hung up. Didn't move for a long minute. Then I got up, walked to the cabinet and pulled the Lakewood file. Title clear, in my name only. Bought with the last of Robert's life insurance. Never meant to be sold. Meant to be mine. Meant to be quiet. I opened the folder, pulled out the deed, scanned it again. Solid. Then I opened my email. The listing was already up. Charming 2-bedroom retreat. Recently passed through family hands. Motivated seller. Photos of my curtains, my books on the shelf, my coffee mug still sitting on the windowsill. I printed the page, slipped it into the yellow folder. Then I called Howard, left a short message. She listed Lakewood, without consent. Need a letter drafted. Today. I didn't cry. I didn't call Darren. I walked to the garage, pulled down the lockbox, and removed the spare key to the cabin. Then I made a second copy. I parked half a block away. Walked slow, steady. One hand in my coat pocket, the other holding a small box of oranges I'd picked up that morning. Darren always liked them. Cold peeled. I rang the bell. Elena answered. She didn't smile. Oh, she said. We weren't expecting you. I know, I brought these. She didn't take them. Behind her, I could hear laughter, voices, glasses clinking. We're actually having family time right now, she said. It's just not a good moment. I waited. She didn't move. I won't stay long, I said. Just wanted to see Darren. She glanced over her shoulder, then leaned in slightly. He's tired. It's been a busy weekend. Maybe try next week. I nodded slowly. Is your mother here? She smiled at that. Yes. We've been catching up. Of course she was. I looked down at the oranges, still cold in my hands. You know, Elena added, lowering her voice, it might be helpful if we set clearer boundaries. Darren's been stretched thin and well. It's important we protect his peace. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I handed her the box. Keep them. They bruise fast. Then I turned around, walked back to the car. I didn't cry. Not in the street. Not in front of her. But I didn't drive home either. I pulled into the old church parking lot nearby and sat in the shade. Dug through my bag. Found the folded listing again. The cabin. The false signature. The rewritten story. Then I opened the glove box. Tucked inside, beneath an old insurance card, was a sealed envelope I hadn't touched in years. Robert's handwriting on the front. I opened it for the first time. I knocked twice. Carol opened the door in her slippers, holding a dish towel. I'm sorry to bother you, I said. But could I ask something strange? She tilted her head. Of course. Your security camera. It faces my driveway, doesn't it? She nodded slowly. Yes. Is everything okay? I think someone's been opening my mail. Her eyes narrowed. When last Tuesday? Around 3 p.m. She stepped aside. Come in. We sat at her kitchen counter while she opened the app on her phone, scrolled through the dates, then paused. There, she said. The timestamp read 3:12 p.m. The video played silently. Darren. He pulled up in his car, got out quickly, looked around, walked to my mailbox, opened it, removed a white envelope, held it to the light, slipped it inside his jacket. Then he got back in and drove off. No hesitation, no shame. Carol didn't say a word, just looked at me. Can I have a copy? She nodded, plugged in a flash drive, saved the clip, ejected it, handed it over. I won't tell him I saw it, she said softly. You won't have to. I walked home slow, hands steady. I plugged the USB into my laptop, created a backup, then printed a still image his hand in my mailbox. I filed it in the yellow folder, labeled it Proof A. Then I opened a blank envelope and wrote one name on the front, Howard Greer. I sat across from Howard as he slid a green folder across the desk. This one's different, he said. Robert didn't want this mixed in with the estate. I opened it. Bank letterhead. A string of account numbers. Robert's name, then mine, then the number. 823-491 Deutsch 17. I stared at it. Howard leaned back. He opened it 5 years before he passed. Used a separate trust. Quiet. Just you and him. I blinked. He never told me. He didn't want you to rely on it. But he wanted you protected truly. This money isn't in the will. Darren has no legal tie. It's yours outright. I flipped through the pages. It hadn't been touched since the month Robert died. No withdrawals. No linked cards. No alerts sent to Darren. It had sat in the dark while they counted what they thought I had. I've kept it separate this whole time, Howard said. But given what you've shown me, the cabin listing, the mailbox footage, the account theft, I think it's time. I folded the paper carefully. No smile. Just breath. They think I'm living off Social Security and a pension, I said. He nodded. Let them. I tucked the green file into my bag behind the yellow one. The weight of it steadied my hands. They've called me useless, dramatic, ungrateful. Howard didn't reply. They're going to learn who kept the lights on all those years. He leaned forward. You want me to activate the trust, move it? I shook my head. Not yet. I'll let them play one more card. He raised an eyebrow. I want to see how far they'll go before they realize I'm not begging. Then I stood, shook his hand, and walked out with both folders pressed to my chest. Back home, I brewed coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and stared out the window. The sun cut through the glass. I didn't touch the cup. I opened my laptop instead and typed Elena's full name into the county court database. I signed the first page. Howard, flipped to the next. Initials here. Full signature here. Date here. I didn't speak, just wrote. The deed was smooth, legal, complete. We moved the house, my house, into a private living trust. Irrevocable, untouchable, quiet. He reviewed each line again. I sipped my coffee. Executor remains me, he asked. Yes. Successor beneficiary, not Darren. He nodded. Understood. I handed him a separate envelope. This is the updated letter. Add it to the trust document. He opened it, skimmed it, then placed it in the back of the file without a word. I leaned back, looked around his office. Everything still smelled like paper and old leather. Familiar. Steady. Howard closed the folder and clicked the latch. It's done. I nodded once. He hesitated, then asked, Have you told him no? He waited. I want him to find out the same way he forgot me by accident. Howard didn't argue. He slid the file into his locked cabinet. I'll keep it here. Unless you want a copy for your safe. I do. He printed a full duplicate, placed it in a red envelope, and handed it to me. I tucked it into my bag behind the yellow and green folders. The weight of 3 colors. 3 phases. 3 answers. I walked out without looking back. Stopped by the post office on the way home. Mailed 1 envelope. No return address. Just 2 pages inside. One was a copy of the Lakewood deed. The other was a typed letter. Unauthorized listing of this property may constitute fraud. Cease all actions immediately. Addressed to Elena. I mailed it first class. Then I drove straight to the cabin. The message came at 7:08 a.m. Elena. We're hosting Thanksgiving. Please don't make it awkward for everyone. No hi. No. We'd love to have you. Just that. I stared at it for a moment. The gall, the nerve, the performance. Then I typed back, me. I'll be there. No emotion, no explanation. She replied with a thumbs up. I didn't respond. I shut off my phone, finished my coffee. Then I drove to the grocery store. Bought exactly what I always used to bring: a pecan pie and 2 bags of fresh cranberries. One for sauce, one just for show. At home, I cleaned the silver pie server, folded a napkin over it, placed it gently in my tote beside the yellow folder. I didn't need to win anything. I only needed to watch. They had built a house of cards. I was simply bringing the wind. The days passed, quiet, steady. No more calls from Darren, no apologies, no thank yous. Thanksgiving morning, I ironed my blouse, put on lipstick, tied my hair back with a plain clip, looked in the mirror. Not a victim, not a guest. I arrived 10 minutes early, knocked once. Elena opened the door. Oh, she said, you're early. You said not to make it awkward, I said. She blinked, stepped aside. Darren didn't look up from his phone. Her mother was already seated, wine in hand, laughing too loud. I placed the pie on the counter. Then I sat and waited. I carved the turkey. No one asked me to. I just stood, picked up the knife, and did it. Elena sat across from me, smiling too tightly, sipping her wine between glances. Darren didn't say much, just nodded along to whatever her mother was saying. Something about new flooring, something about upgrades. The side dishes passed in silence. Mashed potatoes, green beans, bread that had gone a little dry. I listened, observed, waited. It came just after the second pour of wine. Elena cleared her throat. We've been talking about some renovations. Just minor things, of course. Darren thinks the den could be opened up, and the garage should really be converted. Darren glanced at her, startled, but didn't stop her. She pressed forward. Since the house will be ours soon anyway, might as well dream a little. I didn't flinch. I lifted my glass, tilted it slightly toward her. To dreaming, I said. The room went still. Elena looked at me, searching, maybe expecting a protest, a correction, some trembling response. I just smiled. Then I took a sip. Her mother laughed to cover the tension. Well, let's hope you get that paperwork sorted soon. It's such a waste just sitting under someone else's name. Indeed, I said. I let the silence breathe. Darren reached for more stuffing, pretending not to hear. I turned slightly enough to catch his eyes. I assume you've checked the county registry recently, I said. Elena blinked. What? I shrugged. Nothing. Just wondering. She didn't respond. Neither did Darren. I reached for the cranberries, spooned them neatly onto my plate, then laid the spoon down gently. Every move intentional. Measured. Observed. I leaned back in my chair and waited for dessert. Elena stood, glass in hand, voice light, smile wide. I just want to say she began how grateful we are for everyone who supported this next chapter in our lives. She glanced toward her mother. Mom, especially you, for being such a rock, such a help during the planning. Her mother beamed. To Darren's friends, your advice, the connections, the backing. We truly couldn't have done this without you. People around the table nodded, clinked glasses, murmured thanks. Elena paused, soaking it in, then smiled again. And to those who've helped us quietly behind the scenes, sometimes even without knowing, thank you for stepping aside with grace so we could move forward. Darren chuckled, low, smug. No one looked at me. Not a word, not a glance. I set my fork down, wiped my mouth, lifted my glass one more time. To memory, I said, quietly. Elena blinked. Darren looked up confused. To what's recorded, saved, and filed, I added, in case anyone forgets where things came from. Still, no one spoke. I stood slowly, collected my empty plate, carried it to the kitchen, rinsed it under cold water, dried it with their towel. No one followed me. No one tried. When I stepped outside, the night air met me like an old friend. I walked to my car, unlocked it, slid into the seat, and placed the red envelope beside me. I turned off the engine, grabbed the red envelope, walked back to the house. They were still laughing inside, still clinking glasses, still believing they'd won something. I knocked once, then let myself in. Elena froze mid-laugh. Darren stood halfway. I forgot something I said calmly, but it's not food. I stepped back into the dining room, placed the red envelope on the center of the table. No one moved. I opened it, pulled out one single page, laid it flat facing up. I want to read something, I said. Elena opened her mouth. I raised a hand. Clause 17. I began my voice even. Filed under the second revision of Robert Maddox's private testament, executed and notarized separately through Greer and Associates. Darren stared. Any heir or relative, I continued, who publicly ridicules, excludes, or materially humiliates Noreen Maddox verbally or through act shall forfeit their right to receive any portion of the estate currently or subsequently distributed. Elena's lips parted. I kept reading. This clause overrides previous public agreements and remains binding regardless of assumed ownership or entitlement. I folded the page. Silence. Darren choked on his wine. One of his friends muttered, "Wait, what?" I picked up the paper again. Your name, I said to Darren, was removed as successor to the Lakewood property 3 weeks ago. You are not the beneficiary. He looked like he'd been slapped. I turned to Elena. And the listing you submitted for the cabin was sent to the county registrar. Fraudulent intent. It's being reviewed. She paled. I tucked the paper back into the envelope, turned, walked toward the door. One hand on the knob, I paused. I didn't forget Thanksgiving, I said. You forgot who helped you get here. And I walked out. Howard moved fast. By Monday morning, the letters were delivered, one to Darren's office, one to their home. I got the confirmation call before lunch. Both received, Howard said, signed for, time-stamped. I didn't ask what Darren looked like when he opened his. I could picture it. Inside a formal notice from the estate's executor, Howard himself. Subject line, inheritance. Hold, Section 17 invoked plain language, no sympathy. Effective immediately. All disbursements tied to Robert's estate were suspended, pending full investigation of conduct. Clause 17, binding, irrevocable, triggered. Howard had attached screenshots, the live stream timestamp, the table, the toast, the absence. Enough. Darren would now have to petition the court just to argue for a portion of what he believed was already his, and even if he tried, Howard had filed a motion to delay any hearing until the end of the fiscal year. It would bleed him. Meanwhile, Elena received her own letter. No titles, no formalities. Just a clear statement. Any misrepresentation of ownership tied to Lakewood Cabin will result in civil liability and possible criminal referral under Colorado Real Property Code 41-2B. Howard had already flagged the county records. The realtor was contacted. The listing taken down. Quietly. Legally. Then came the ripple. Elena's parents, who had spent the wedding gloating about future vacations, cars, and upgrades, found out. They called? She didn't answer. So they showed up. At Darren's doorstep. With a printed list of every item they'd gifted, cutlery, appliances, honeymoon funds, and demanded it back. You misled us, her father said, according to the neighbor who overheard through the window. You said the house was yours, that it was settled, that you were set. She screamed. Darren tried to calm them. It didn't work. By Thursday, her mother had posted a Facebook message with 3 words. We were tricked. I didn't like reading it. But I didn't delete the screenshot either. Instead, I printed it, filed it in the red envelope. Then I brewed a cup of coffee and began writing the final letter. The call came just after midnight. No caller ID. No message at first. Then at 12:08 a.m., a voicemail. I watched the screen flash. I didn't move. Let it finish. Then tapped play. Darren's voice, shaky, breathless. Mom, please. I didn't know she was doing all that. I didn't mean for it to go this far. A pause. I just wanted to start something on my own. I thought if we got the house, if I proved I could handle it. Another pause. A breath. Please. Can we talk? Just once, I miss you. I held the phone in my hand. Let it hang in the silence. Then I tapped delete. No hesitation. I turned off the ringer, set the phone face down on the kitchen table, reached for my mug. Coffee was still warm. I drank. The night was quiet. The world didn't end. He could beg. He could rewind. He could say it was never meant that way. But it was. He made choices. So did I. Tomorrow, Howard would deliver the next letter. And this time, it wouldn't be a warning. The clip loaded on my screen. Title, Stepping into Your Power, featuring Elena Maddox. I didn't click it right away, but the views ticked up. Then the link landed in my inbox from 2 different people, and again through a message from a former neighbor. So I clicked. The host spoke first, polished and wide-eyed. Today we're joined by Elena Maddox, wife interior consultant and advocate for boundary setting with in-laws. I sipped my coffee. Elena's face filled the frame, hair curled just right, gold studs in her ears, her voice smooth. I think it's important, she began, that young couples protect their space. Sometimes the older generation doesn't understand how to let go. The host nodded solemnly. It's tough when they overstep, isn't it? Elena smiled. Exactly. My husband and I were starting a life, but there were expectations, emotional strings attached to money, to property, to favors. I let her talk, let her bury herself. Was there a specific event that made you draw the line? The host asked. Elena gave a small laugh. Thanksgiving. She showed up with this letter trying to shame us in front of everyone. Honestly, it felt like emotional blackmail. No one challenged her. No one asked what the letter said. I scrolled down to the comments. That's where the truth lived. Wait wasn't that the woman who raised her son alone. You took her house and wore her pearls. What boundaries are you talking about? She watched your wedding on a live stream. You're not the victim. Dozens more. Some from strangers. Some from locals. A few with usernames I recognized. I didn't reply. Didn't post. I just bookmarked the link. Saved the page. Then picked up the next envelope. The one addressed to the podcast sponsor. I parked at the curb. No lights on inside. The porch was dim, empty. Wind rattled a loose piece of siding above the mailbox. I stepped out. Locked the door behind me. Walked up the path, slow, steady, not hiding. I carried one thing, a sealed envelope. Cream paper. Heavyweight. I placed it on the welcome mat. Tucked the corner just under the edge of the doormat so it wouldn't blow away. Then I stood there for a second. Listened. Waited. Nothing moved. I turned. Walked back to the car. Drove home. Didn't look in the mirror. Inside that envelope wasn't money, wasn't a threat, wasn't a document. It was a single photo. Me, 37. Tired, smiling. Holding Darren in a hospital chair. He couldn't have been more than 6 pounds. I'd written nothing on the back, just attached a small sticky note pressed over the edge. 3 words you knew better. I didn't knock, didn't ring, didn't need to. Whatever came next didn't need my voice. I opened the door. Cool air swept in. The sky was soft gray just before the sun broke through. No cars passed. No voices stirred. Just the creak of the porch wood under my feet. I stepped out, pulled the robe tighter, walked barefoot across the old boards to the table by the railing, set down the mug, poured coffee, black, strong, hot enough to steam, The ceramic warmed in my palm, white, sturdy. One phrase in block letters, still here. I sat down, watched the light change. My name wasn't printed in programs, not spoken into microphones, not engraved into thank you cards. But I was here. No debt. No silence I didn't choose. No shame I didn't return. The documents were done. The trusts secure. The final filing sent. Howard was on vacation, now said he'd earned it. The house was mine. Not because someone gave it to me, because I stayed, waited, listened, and moved only when the ground was firm. Birdsong broke through the quiet. A breeze lifted the leaves. I sipped, didn't flinch, didn't glance at my phone, didn't wonder who might knock. No one owned this hour, not anymore. The mug sat solid in my hand. The world turned, and I didn't.